Welcome to the Man with No Name podcast. I'm your host, the Man with No Name. I'm no single man, yet I'm every person. I'm you, exploring the highs and lows, the shared journey of parenthood, marriage, spiritual healing, and personal growth. Thanks for joining me. Episode 3, Meditation and Mindfulness. Welcome back to the Man with No Name podcast. As always, please listen, follow, and subscribe if you like what you've been hearing here. Also, we are now on Instagram at the handle The Man With No Name Podcast. Give us a follow there as well. I'm glad you're here today because we're diving into something that has completely transformed my life and healing journey. Meditation and the concept of mindfulness. In our last episode, we talked about therapy, which is a crucial piece of the puzzle, but it's not the only piece. Today's focus on meditation is another part of that bigger picture. Just like therapy, meditation offers a path to self-awareness, and without self-awareness, true healing is not possible. Today, we're going to break down some of the scientific background of meditation and show you how it's not just something hippies do. Meditation for me has always been like a reset button, a way to bring myself back to center when things start to feel overwhelming. I'm going to share my experiences with meditation and mindfulness and why I believe these tools are essential for everyone, especially if you're on your own healing journey. When I say everyone, I mean everyone. I'm going to have my first guest of the podcast, a young man who I can say is the coolest person I know, and someone that I truly hope becomes an individual that is better than me in every way. It's my son, who will go by the letter A. Later on, I'll be playing a conversation with A, who just turned 6, showing you how I've introduced mindfulness into my kids' lives to help them grow into emotionally regulated adults. But before we get into that, I want to show you, whether you've tried meditation 1,000 times or this is your first time hearing about it, there's no right or wrong way to start. All that matters is that you do start, and I'm here with you in that process. Meditation isn't just sitting still and trying to empty your mind, although it may look like that from the outside. Meditation is about noticing, bringing awareness to your thoughts, feelings, and surroundings without judgment. It's a way of practicing mindfulness in your daily life. One of the reasons meditation is so powerful is because it taps into neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire and reshape itself. Over time, by practicing meditation, you train your brain to handle stress, anger, and even trauma in new ways. It's not about erasing bad feelings. It's about recognizing them, acknowledging them, and letting them pass. I've heard of meditation like being underwater, and your thoughts are like bubbles. Once they form, the skill is to let them float away without holding on to them. The more you practice, the better you get at shifting back to center when life throws you off balance. Dr. Andrew Huberman, in one of his podcast episodes, talks about the balance between interoception, awareness of your internal state, and exteroception, awareness of your external world around you. Meditation helps you switch between the two seamlessly, or find a balance between the two, allowing you to stay grounded within yourself even when the world outside is chaotic. It's like training a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger you get at recognizing thoughts, observing them, and letting them go without holding on to them. That's one of the biggest lessons and skills that I've learned. Don't hold on to these thoughts. Don't ruminate on them. Just let them pass. Let them exist, but not dwell on them. Meditation has a profound effect on the brain's wave activity. Typically, when we're going about our day, especially in stressful situations, our brains are in a beta state. This is the state of high alertness and active thinking, which can contribute to anxiety or stress. However, when you meditate, you start shifting into your slower brainwave patterns, moving from beta into alpha, and even deeper into theta and delta states. Here's a quick breakdown of the different states. Beta waves are fast, dominant in normal waking consciousness, and associated with active thought, problem solving, and sometimes stress or anxiety. Alpha waves are slower and more relaxed. You experience alpha when you're calm but awake, like during light meditation or when you're simply resting with your eyes closed. Alpha allows for more creativity and a relaxed awareness. Theta waves are even slower. This is the state of deep relaxation, often achieved during deeper meditation, daydreaming, or right before falling asleep. Theta is associated with insight, intuition, and subconscious work. It's in this state that many people report a sense of deep connection to their inner self or higher consciousness. Delta waves are the slowest, experienced during deep, dreamless sleep or very deep states of meditation. Delta is when the body and the brain undergo profound healing and regeneration. It's rare to reach Delta in meditation unless you've been practicing for a long time, but it's possible and leads to incredible stillness and rejuvenation. As you practice meditation, you may find that you can guide your brain from that busy, stress-filled beta state into more relaxed, creative alpha and even theta states. This shift not only allows you to help calm your mind, but it also brings about a more centered emotional state, allowing you to approach challenges with clarity instead of reactivity. The more you practice, the more you'll recognize that these different brainwave states can influence your level of consciousness and awareness. I know that when I hit these states, I'm fully awake and conscious, but yet I'm in a dreamlike state. When you're in deeper states like theta, you might find insights coming to you more naturally, or you may experience a sense of stillness and peace that carries over into your daily life. Many people believe that it's in these states where you can truly manifest. An author that I follow by the name of Dr. Joe Dispenza explains that in these states, you're actually raising your vibrational frequencies, allowing you to be in a state of abundance and attracting things that you want. I'll talk more about this concept on later episodes. Regardless of these concepts, this awareness and calm can profoundly affect your emotional regulation, especially in moments of stress or anger. It's the exercise and discipline behind regular meditation that gives you the added neural muscle power to catch yourself in emotional dysregulation and then bring yourself back to center. When I first started meditating, I didn't realize how much it was going to change my life. It felt strange at first, just sitting there with my thoughts. I wasn't used to slowing down and paying attention to what was going on in my mind, but over time I began to notice subtle shifts. As stated previously, I was able to catch myself before I spiraled into anger or anxiety, and I could bring myself back to center more quickly. The thing is, meditation isn't just about sitting still. It's a practice that builds self-awareness, and self-awareness is the foundation of healing. Without it, we can't recognize the patterns that hold us back. Meditation creates the space between stimulus and response, something I've talked about before. It gives you the pause you need to make a conscious decision rather than reacting out of old habits or emotions. And I know sometimes healing feels overwhelming, like it's just too big of a task. But the beauty of meditation is that it teaches you to break it down moment by moment. You don't have to figure out everything at once. You just need to take one breath, be present in that moment, and then let go of whatever comes up. Another one of my favorite authors is Eckhart Tolle, and he calls this state of being in the now. The idea is that most anxiety and negative feelings exist when the thinker, you, are existing and worried about something in the past state or preoccupied with something in the future, both of which, past and future, don't exist. If you're hearing this and you're thinking the past and future do exist, then I'll ask you the same question that Tolle asks his students. If they are real and they exist, then show me. You can't. All you can show me is what exists, which is now. The past is gone. You cannot bring that back. And the future is something that you're thinking about that may or may never come to fruition. There is only now. Eckhart Tolle talks about all this extensively in his book, The Power of Now, which is something I recommend to everyone to read. Now, if you're curious about this book and other resources about meditation, I'll link everything in the show notes. I'm going to include the link to the Insight Timer app, an app that I use for meditation, which includes guided and unguided meditations. I'll also include links to Huberman's episode on meditation. Now, mindfulness and being present isn't just something I've used for myself. I've also made it a part of how I parent. I want my kids to grow up emotionally regulated, to have the tools to manage their feelings and to be able to pause and reflect before reacting. It's one of the greatest gifts I can give them. It's one of the key concepts of breaking generational trauma and ensuring that it stops with me. I'm going to play a conversation now that I had with my son recently where we talked about mindfulness. You'll hear how I taught him to notice his feelings, to pause when he's upset or angry, and to use his skills to bring himself back to center. This is an exercise and concept that I developed after reading one of Eckhart Tolle's books, The New Earth, where he talks about playing games with your kids after they've had a meltdown. You'll hear my son refer to something called a ghost cloud, and a ghost cloud is something that I got my son to name and identify. He did this. Similar to the concept of name it to tame it, when he is able to recognize his emotions and put it into a tangible concept, he is in essence demonstrating true mindfulness. Even at age 6, he's able to identify, process, and let go of emotions he doesn't want. Let's listen to the conversation now. Okay, so you and I are going to sit down and we're just going to have a conversation and chat. And before we do that, let's tell everybody that's listening, who are you?
A.
A. You're going to go by the name A. And who am I? What's my name?
Dada or Daddy.
Okay, that works. So we can talk about anything. I want to talk a little bit about feelings. Sound good?
Sound good.
So sometimes you get big feelings, good feelings and bad feelings. Tell me about some of the good feelings that you get.
Happy, excited, love, peaceful, confident.
Yeah, good. Now, tell me about some bad feelings that you get. Some big, bad feelings. What are some of those?
One that's mixed together,
Okay.
like a big tornado.
Like a big tornado. Okay.
Monster.
You and I have talked about.
Of anger, anxiety, scared. Oh, back to happy. Peaceful. Is that and then happy?
Okay. So you and I have talked about this before too, where sometimes when you get feelings, we call it something. What happens? What comes into the room or what comes over you?
There's something called a ghost cloud.
A ghost cloud. Okay. Tell me more about that. How does that work?
Like the angry one, like the sad, they're all like what they look like. Like the anger is like a red, like with bones around it.
Okay. It looks like a skull.
Yeah.
And it's a cloud. Okay. What
like
else?
Like the scared cloud. It sounds the first one I came up with. It's called a ghost cloud.
When a ghost cloud comes in, can you tell that it's here?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. How come sometimes?
Because this morning I didn't know I had one.
Oh, you didn't. But now you do, right? You know now that this morning you had one over you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's important to know that when you have these clouds come in, these ghost clouds come in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So if you know a ghost cloud is here, who pushes the ghost clouds away?
I know there is a fairy king, but now there's a peaceful king. Now there's a peaceful king. Now there's a love king. There's a happy king now.
Okay.
I'm making those up.
You're making them up. And what do? They push the ghost clouds away?
Yeah.
Are you able to control when the fairy kings and the love kings come in and push the clouds away?
Yes.
How do you get them to come in?
I want to feel happy.
You want to feel happy, so you make yourself feel happy, and then they come in, right?
Yeah.
And then Daddy recently told you about a story, and it was a story, remember, about the Native Americans, the Cherokees?
Yeah.
What was that story about? Tell me about that.
2 wolves that live inside of you.
2 wolves that live inside you. And what do those wolves do?
One eats all the angry, mad, sad ones.
Okay.
Ghost clouds.
One eats the ghost clouds.
And it feels like that because it's eating it.
Yeah.
One eats still like the fairy king, the happy queens.
Okay.
None of those.
So one eats bad feelings. It feeds off of bad feelings. And the other one feeds off of
Good feelings.
good feelings. Okay.
And the good feeling eater one is good.
Okay.
And the sad one eats sad emotions.
So there's 2 wolves, and they each eat different types of emotions, right?
Yes.
And then from there, let me ask you this. How many can eat at once? Only one or both?
Only one.
Only one. How do you control, or how do you figure out which one eats? Who controls that?
Me.
You. Okay. How do you control that?
Just control it.
You just control it. Because you said one eats happy emotions and one eats sad emotions or negative, bad emotions. Do you control which wolf you feed?
Yes.
And you do that by choosing...
Which emotion I'm feeling.
Exactly. Good. Very good. So sometimes when you aren't in touch with your emotions and they're just going, right? What does Daddy say to you to remind you about the 2 wolves?
A, how are you feeling?
And which?
Which wolf are you feeding?
Good. And how does it feel when Daddy asks you that question?
I don't know.
You don't know. Does it help?
Just the emotion I'm feeling.
Well, how does it feel when Daddy asks you that question about the wolves? Which wolf are you feeding?
I say I mostly say happy.
Mostly say happy. Does it help remind you when Daddy asks you which wolf are you going to feed?
It does help.
How does it help? Tell me.
Because if I don't really realize that I'm like that, I just do the task.
Yeah, I ask, and then it makes you think about which wolf you want to feed, right?
Yeah.
Good. Let me ask you this, A. How old are you?
6.
6. You just turned 6. So you have a lot of understanding for a 6-year-old. If there were other 6-year-olds or even mommies and daddies of 6-year-olds, what advice would you give them about feeding wolves or emotions? What helps other kids? Tell me.
I'll tell them the story.
The story. Okay.
And then whenever I see them, and I see like if they're angry, I'm like, are you angry? Which wolf are you feeding?
Okay.
To one of my friends if they're like a little or something.
Okay. Okay, that works too. Good. Also, you wear something on your wrist.
A bracelet.
What bracelet is that?
It is a special rock one you have, and you're wearing it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have a couple of those, right? And
It's
what
free.
do those bracelets do?
They help you just be happy.
Just be happy. When you look at them, what do you think of?
Be happy.
Being happy. Do they help remind you of all the things that Daddy tells you?
Yes,
How so? How does that help? What do you think of?
you.
You think of me. Okay. All right. Was this fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about next time?
Some more emotion and a lot about the bracelets.
A lot more about the bracelets. Okay. We can talk about the types of stones they are and what they do, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything to say to people before we say bye?
Goodbye.
Okay. Goodbye. If you're a parent listening to this, I included this conversation as a way to instill mindfulness into your kids. I'm not saying this is the best way or the only way to do it, but it's a method where we found success. You can't just tell a 6-year-old to be mindful. You've got to almost gamify it. Once you get them to separate from the emotions, you can get them to realize that they are not the emotions themselves, but the emotions are a reflection of what is going on in their bodies. When I talk to A about his ghost cloud, especially after a tantrum or a moment where he's overcome by his emotions, I can ask him, was it there? Was that it? Was that your ghost cloud? Oftentimes he's able to identify it and say yes. As you've heard, it's not about perfection. It's about awareness. I want my kids to know that emotions are okay, but how we deal with them matters. The story of the two wolves is an old Cherokee Indian story brought to my attention by my friend Alex Wassam. It's the story that every man has two wolves inside of them, one that feeds off of positive emotions and one that feeds off of negative emotions. My son has actually named his wolves. The good one is called Hardy, and the bad one is called Stormy because he feeds off of the previously mentioned ghost clouds. The question is, which wolf survives? And the answer is the one that you feed. It's the concept that I'm teaching both of my kids. I've taught them that if they're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to ask for a break, to step away and take a few breaths. It's not about suppressing their emotions, but giving them the space to understand and regulate those feelings. You've heard him mention our matching bracelets as well, which are made of obsidian beads. The belief is that these spiritually charged beads keep away negativity. And whether or not this is true, the mere physical presence of these bracelets on our wrists are just another tool to be visually reminded of mindfulness. Now let's talk a little bit more about how meditation and mindfulness can help with emotional regulation. We've all been there. Something happens that triggers a strong emotional response, whether it's anger, frustration, or sadness. And for me, anger was my go-to response for a long time. One of the most important tools I've learned is recognizing the signs early. When that heat rises in your chest or tightness in your throat, you start feeling pressure in your head. Those are somatic or body signals that something's going on beneath the surface. That's where mindfulness comes in. It's about noticing those feelings before they take control. When you recognize those moments, this is the result of the neuroplasticity you're gaining from meditation. You see the emotions come up, pause them from progressing further, and ask yourself, what's happening here? What am I feeling? You don't have to fix it right away, but just acknowledging it can slow things down. If you're in a conversation and feel yourself getting heated, it's okay to ask for a moment and step away. That space gives you the opportunity to breathe, to check in with yourself, and decide how you want to respond. The more you meditate, the better you get at coming back to center in meditation. The better you get at this, the better you get at doing exactly the same thing with your negative feelings. It's just like any skill. Neuroplasticity allows your brain to adapt and get better at recognizing and regulating emotions. It won't be perfect every time, and that's just fine. Don't expect perfection. Just know that each time you pause, reflect, and act mindfully, you're making progress. It's all a part of the journey. Okay, so now you're better at recognizing the emotions that come up. Now what? What do you do when you pause? One of the key lessons meditation teaches is how to let go. How to let go of thoughts, emotions, tension. You see, when we meditate, we're training ourselves to notice thoughts as they come up, examine them with curiosity, and then release them without getting caught up in them. It's the same with emotions. If you practice this during meditation, it gets easier to apply in real life. You see it, you recognize it, and let it go. You simply just let go. It's a mantra that I repeat to myself all the time, and possibly a tattoo that I've been wanting to get for some time right below the beaded bracelets I wear, perhaps someday. Anyway, when anger or frustration arises, you can look at it, ask yourself where it's coming from, and then, you guessed it, let go. This doesn't mean ignoring the feeling or pushing it down. It means acknowledging it without letting it take over. I found this practice to be incredibly helpful, not just for myself, but in my relationships and interactions. It gives me the space to choose a response instead of reacting in a way that I'll regret later. To everyone listening, I want you to know the practice of mindfulness and meditation, it's not about getting it right every time. It's about learning and growing. Healing isn't linear, as I said before. It's okay to have setbacks. But every time you practice, you're building that awareness and that ability to come back to center when things get hard. The ultimate goal is to be able to control your emotions and not let them control you. One of my favorite quotes is, "Let your emotions dictate your environment, but don't let your environment dictate your emotions." So if you're feeling overwhelmed or stuck, take a breath. Be patient with yourself. You're not supposed to have it all figured out right now. This journey is about progress, not perfection. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Again, please listen, follow, and subscribe. I hope you take something valuable from it, whether it's starting your own meditation practice or using mindfulness in your daily life. Remember, you're not alone in this journey, and we're all working to heal and grow one breath at a time. And also remember, let go. See you next time.